With the release of iOS 18, Apple added a few new things to the iPad ecosystem, but not quite what everyone was hoping for. With the ability to customize the home screen without the jiggly widgets, it's more aligned with Android, Control Center being a bit more useful. Those are the only things which really interest me this year. People want that mythical update, which takes the iPad to be more like macOS and less like an iPhone, where the iPad can stand on its own, finally being a real computer doing real computer things. Which brings me to this video. Is it really worth upgrading to the new M4 iPad Pros when the M1, M2s already do so much with a price point around $2,000 for a brand new ecosystem? You have to remember, none of the older iPad accessories will work with the new M4s. No keyboard cases, stands, mounts, inside cases, screen protectors, nothing will carry over to the new hardware. Therefore, is it really worth starting over from zero? Hey, it's V, let's get started. I've owned my M1 iPad Pro for about 3 years now. When the M2 came out, granted the hover feature was nice, there really wasn't anything different beyond that. The M1s and M2s are about the same. Granted the M2s were a little bit faster. Who really noticed a difference? Most people never really took the plunge to upgrade. This reminds me of the third iPad, which came out in 2012. It brought the Retina screen, it had better specs, it had LTE, it also rocked the A5X chip. The fourth iPad, which came out 6 months later, it had a lightning port, the A6X, very minimal spec bump at best. Even several years later, M1s are still very capable, should still be good for at least another 5 years at minimum. Most of the time I write my scripts on my iPad Pro. Being a companion device to the Apple ecosystem, it works quite well with everything. With the M4s being released only a few months ago, how do they hold up compared to the older ones? I usually never buy anything on launch day, so this is a first for me. I don't do Apple hardware reviews. There are other channels out there, and they can do it so much better than what I could. Upgrading to the M4s for the complete package is about $2,000. With the new hardware, new form factors, they're thinner, lighter, and faster, which means none of my old accessories will work with the new ones, especially with the placement of the magnets on the backside. You could think of it like a transition from the iPhone 4 to 5, switching over from the 30-pin connector to Lightning. When it's time to let the old stuff go and start with something fresh, that's one thing people have issues with, is the old legacy stuff. Like, look at the older comics from like 80 years ago from Batman, Spider-Man, Superman. That's why there's always reboots or soft rebrandings every so often, so new viewers can jump into comics. Look at the new 52. I mean, look at Marvel right now. You have to go back like 10, 12 years of movies to figure out what's going on, and that's just the MCU. When is the right time to switch to a new platform, a new ecosystem? 3 years, 7, 10, or even 20 years? I do agree with some of the stuff that Apple did. Others you kind of feel like a cash grab. The keyboard case was a dumb decision. The new Apple Pencil I will agree with. It has newer technology. That should have a newer starting off point. This tablet can easily go up to about $3,000 just for itself. That's beyond MacBook Pro territory. I picked up the base storage option, the 256, because that's all I need. The keyboard is $350 and the stylus is $130. The total price I paid is about $1,800 for an iPad, or you can pick up an older M1 off eBay, Amazon, Apple, Best Buy, with everything for about half that price. Comparing the M1s to the M4s, the overall user experience will be about the same. The M4s are shinier. At the end of the day, I mean, it's about the same user experience. Getting to the unboxing after my rant. Inside you have the iPad Pro itself. It still surprises me how light and thin this really is. With the iPads, you can customize the storage. With the storage, you can go from 256 all the way up to 2 terabytes. The 1 terabyte version comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM and an extra core for the M4 processor. What really takes advantage of that? The nano texture screen is only available with the 1 terabyte option. Cellular will work with any option for $200 more. Like, the more options with the iPads, the price really shoots up. Fully maxed out with everything adds up to about $3,000 without the accessories. With that being said, the iPad is very very expensive. The accessories in the box are a different story. Apple tosses in a 20-watt power brick. It's USB-C. Personally, it should be at least 60 watts. You're paying a premium price, you should get premium accessories. A 60-watt power brick should be more than enough for Apple to toss in. All of your old iPhone chargers, which are no longer in the box, are now shipped with the iPads. Imagine if you buy a MacBook Pro and they give you a 20-watt power brick. They also give a 1-foot braided USB-C to Type-C cable. Some people might like that, but I would rather have at least 3 feet. The instructions, the basic stuff. They no longer do stickers, which, I mean, that doesn't really bug me. After using this for a while, I'm more familiar with the size and the weight. Like, switching back to the older M1s, I do notice it is heavier and a bit chunkier. The new ones feel more natural. I mean, the old ones never felt too heavy, but I do notice it now after owning the new ones. Like, a lot of people have had issues with the new M4 iPads, like bending in like a book bag or just in general. The thickness with the original felt natural. It was thick enough, but not too thick. It was sort of like the sweet spot. Overall, my favorite part of the new iPads is the screen. It's 1000 nits of brightness paired with a dual layered OLED that is super nice. Older M1s can only do 600 nits of brightness. It was viewable in the sunlight, but the new ones, I can see the new M4 screens directly in the sun. The M4 is just a number, it's faster, but even 3 years later, the M1 is still more than capable for what I use it for. Personally, I would rather see the iPad mini 7 with an M1 or M2, slightly bigger screen, OLED, and then Apple has my money at that point. Getting to the Apple Pencil Pro, this one is worth the Pro name. Apple's lineup with their styluses is a mess, but their new ones are really good. The new iPads have a horizontal camera, and with the new Pencil, took the magnets, they spread them out a little bit further towards the ends to accommodate the horizontal camera, so it makes the former Pencil no longer usable with the new iPads. So I mean, this does make sense. They tossed newer technology into it to kind of give it the Pro name. This is only a few dollars more than the second one, but it also gets a couple new features. You can squeeze for different gestures. There's a gyroscope inside to detect rotation, the motor for haptic feedback, the Find My feature if it gets lost. At the same time, most apps can't use all these features unless the developers update them, and I mean, that does take time. Inside the box, you have the stylus and the instructions. This does feel a little bit heavier in my hands. The new one is 19 grams and the old one is 18 grams. I tried to use my old Apple Pencil sleeve on my new one. It will fit. It doesn't give like a secured magnetic fit. So I don't recommend using the older Apple Pencil accessories with the newer ones. They won't really work. With the addition of the new features, this one to me should have been called the Apple Pencil 4 to keep up with the proper naming. iPad M4, Apple Pencil 4. I mean, the name makes sense, right? Apple Pencil 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1, 2, 3 Pencil Pro. Just call it the fourth one. It's like Alien, Aliens, Aliens 3, Aliens Resurrection. That just rolls off the tongue. Look at Rambo, Rocky, the Terminator films. I mean, for the difference being minimal on the outside, it offers newer features to it. The Pencil Pro is really worth the upgrade. The biggest issue I have with the newer iPads is the keyboard case. This can be picked up for about $350 brand new. I feel as if this should have been an optional accessory. It's not really required for the iPads. Even with the old Magic Keyboard, if you line up the smart connector with the older Magic Keyboard, it will work with the M4s. Even the other way around, if you use an M1 iPad with an M4 keyboard, the keyboard part will work if you line everything up. The only thing that doesn't work is the trackpad because it uses a different technology. They could have adjusted the magnets to work with the older accessories, but they chose not to. I just feel as if this is a cash grab. With the placement of the speakers of the new iPads, they moved around the magnets so none of the old accessories will work with the newer ones. The main difference between both keyboards, the new one, the top is made from aluminum, so it feels more like a traditional laptop. The older one has like this rubber material to it. I mean, it's not too bad. The newer one has a function row on top, which should have been there from the beginning. The keyboard is moved back to accommodate a bigger trackpad, which is much appreciated. I mean, the old trackpad wasn't bad, but it did feel a little bit cramped at times. The newer one uses a different technology, so there's no actual moving parts. The typing experience feels pretty good overall. It might just be me, but I prefer the typing experience on the new one compared to the old one. The keyboard weight is a little bit different. The new one is 657 grams, and the old one is 689 grams. It's not really a big difference in weight, but it is there. I do find the new one is a worthy upgrade over the older one. Everything that was wrong with the old one was corrected with the new one. I feel as if consumers should have had the option to still be able to use their old one or buy the new one. The placement of the bigger trackpad, the keyboard being pushed back, the metal finish on top, everything almost feels perfect. The USB-C port on the keyboard case is changed to be a little bit more seamless and flush with the hinge. With the introduction to the new one, they corrected everything that was wrong with the old one. I feel as if people should have had the choice to use their older ones compared to the new one, because I mean, it essentially does the same thing. If it wasn't for the placement of the magnets to accommodate the newer speakers, more or less the original one would have fit. The main difference between both tablets are the screens. The M1 has a micro LED screen, and the M4 has the OLED screen. The micro LED is fine by itself, but after using the OLED, that display is gorgeous. It gets up to 1000 nits of peak brightness. It's very viewable in direct sunlight. The M1s can only do 600 nits. The colors really pop with the new OLED. Like the whites get really white and the blacks get pretty deep. Some people have had issues with grainy screens, but I haven't really noticed that for myself personally. I am curious about the possibility of burn-ins with OLED screens. That's pretty common, but Apple has a dual layered OLED to help prevent this. The new M4s have their cameras horizontal and no longer are vertical. Besides that, the front-facing camera is a little bit better. The cameras on the backside did receive a downgrade. The M4s lost the ultra-wide camera. There's only a single lens now with a LiDAR sensor. The iPads will take okay photos, but I mean, they're not really anything groundbreaking. It's not like I'm going to take my iPad to Niagara Falls for like a real photo shoot. You could say the cameras here are downgraded. That's one thing that the M1s have over the newer ones is the ultra-wide camera. I don't really use my iPad's cameras that often. It doesn't really affect me, so it doesn't really appeal to me, but some people actually do iPad photography, so that's kind of their thing. It's a camera on a tablet, so I mean, it's really whatever. Anything photo and video related, I have my mirrorless cameras for that. New Apple Pencil Pro is the hot talk of the town. This one makes sense. The front-facing cameras are horizontal now, so they had to spread out the magnets to accommodate that. This one I'm not mad about. This one actually makes sense. The keyboard case, not so much. People have mentioned that the speakers don't sound as good compared to the M1s. The stylus is similar and different at the same time. It charges magnetically on top. It has a double tap feature from stylus to eraser. The gyroscope, pinch for gestures, the Find My, the haptic motor are like the big additions here. I really do like the hover feature. Wherever the tip of the stylus hovers over will highlight it. That area will light up. This was only available with the M2s, not the M1s. I never upgraded to the M2s, so I never had this feature. Like overall, I like the hover feature the best because it works so well. Like the new stylus is familiar and different at the same time. It really is a worthy upgrade here. Picking up the new iPad Pros from the M1s or M2s, it offers enough to really justify the upgrade, but it will cost a small fortune. The cheapest option is about $1,300, and each storage option will be a couple $100. The Nano texture screen requires the 1TB version, and that's about $2,000 just for that. Optional 5G data for $200 more. The keyboard is $350, the stylus is $150. iPad OS can do a lot, but it will never replace a real laptop. The M4s are shiny, they're nice, they're a worthy upgrade, but they do cost a lot. They're thinner, faster, and more powerful. That screen is gorgeous. The new keyboard case is really good. The trackpad is amazing, and the build quality is superb. I do like the stylus here the best because it offers more features for about the same price point. The M4 processor is about 2 to 3 times faster compared to the M1, but who will really notice the difference in power? It's like having a Mustang engine in a golf cart. I feel as if most people don't really need it. If it wasn't for me doing YouTube on the side, I would never have upgraded to the M4s. I like the new ones, but I don't really need it. I picked it up for content creation. I'm really torn between liking it and actually buying it. I'm glad I did. It's my new daily driver. With iOS 18, it didn't really offer a lot for me. Like maybe with iOS 19, it will offer more Mac-like features. I still use my Mac for about 90% of my workflow. I'm trying to put my iPad more into it. The M1s and M2s are more than enough for most people, but the new ones are really that good. This is my overall rant about the new iPads. They're good, they're expensive, most people don't really need them. I feel as if they kind of like lost their image of what they're trying to be. So like always, it's V, stay classy.